principals here at Branham, and welcome to AP and Honors Information Night. We're excited to have you here. Our plan tonight is to go through some of the basics about the AP program, and we're gonna have a student panel and a teacher panel to share both the student experience and the teacher side of AP and honors courses at Branham. Just so you're aware, the chat is disabled, but you can put any questions you have in the Q&A, and we'll either answer it there or if it seems like a common question, we will bring it up to the group. So starting us off, here's our agenda for the night. The first part's going to be primarily me talking, and then we'll get into our panels, and at the end, we will open up with any questions. So first of all, welcome. And I want to get right into this. Some of the benefits of taking an AP course. Maybe your student's taken one before, maybe it's a new experience. To answer really quick, because that's an important call, yes, this will be available after the call. So, but if you want to answer in there, that'd be great. So some of the benefits of taking an AP course are, your student is being exposed to college level curriculum. So if their plan is to attend a two or 4 year school after Branham, they will, at the very, very least, get exposure to that college level work and curriculum. And studies have shown that students who have this exposure have a higher rate of success in college than those who do not. And so it not only prepares them to be successful in college, but if they take an AP course and pass the corresponding exam with a 3 or better, they're scored on a 1 to 5 scale. And so if they get a 3 or better, generally they can actually earn some college credit or take care of some general education classes. So when I will be sharing the slideshow as well, and you'll be able to click on that AP credit policy. It does vary by school, by college, but the general trend is a lot of schools will give some credit for a 3 or better, or they'll be able to test out of a course, so to speak. And so not only can they get that credit, save money, it also gives them the potential to start ahead of other freshmen. They might be able to register for classes early, or depending on the school, other things like that. So it's another thing is colleges really look at a student's rigorous class schedule. So it's really considered a lot of schools will look at how rigorous a course load are students taking through their high school experience. And so APs are one way to show that they are a well-defined way for students to show that they're doing so. And then it can also potentially, because the courses go deeper into the concepts than some of our general education class or on-level classes, it can potentially expose students to future, interests, like expose them to new things that they might be interested in pursuing. So just really quick, I want to run through some of our offerings. These are sort of it's going to vary by student, of course, but some of the courses that are commonly taken in 10th grade, world history, students, if you have a current 9th grader, students have the choice of taking world history or AP world history. Some students who are accelerated in Spanish take the Spanish language test in 10th grade. We also have our honors computer programming in Java. This has replaced AP computer science the last couple of years. And while it does prepare students for the AP computer science A exam, it also, students have the potential, if I'm not mistaken, to earn credit as a kind of dual as a West Valley course. It's lined up with one of the West Valley curriculums. So, those students, again, they are prepared for the computer science class. And it is honors class. They do get a grade bump for, their UC and CSU applications. 11th grade, the opportunities expand greatly. You can see there's a large variety. Again, some of these are 11th grade specific, US history, English language, and some of them are, open to really 10th or 11th or 12th graders. We had a lot of sciences. Again, our honors program expands. In addition to the computer programming of Java, We have the next level, which is data structures and algorithms. Again, an honors class. We have Korean. This coming year, we're adding Korean 4, and students will have the option of doing Korean 4 honors, so a more in-depth accelerated course. 12th grade, again, they stay open. We add U.S. government as an option. Some of the classes, if I are, psychology and classes like that are open to 11th and 12th graders. 12th graders will have priority. So we want to ensure all students have the opportunity to take them while they're at Branham. But we really try and give students the opportunity to take those. Next up is in our honors, again, we add, in addition to the others, we add software engineering. It's kind of our capstone computer programming class. So that's an exciting class that will be new next year. So yeah, so those are our offerings. And we are very excited to be having them. So some of the tricks for success in AP courses. Okay. Because students often, they don't know what they're getting into. So really looking at, this is from the student perspective, what can they do to be successful in their AP courses? Staying organized. Okay. The courses, they're meant to move at the college pace more. And so really being able to keep track of things. Students are going to have more responsibilities. And so just really that they can keep things organized both on paper, notebooks, online, stay on top of deadlines, everything like that. So using a daily planner, especially if they're taking multiple AP classes at the same time, kind of keeping things or assignments organized. Managing time. They will definitely, in addition to classwork, most AP courses also do include some amount of homework, so work that students need to do outside of class. And really, especially if they're doing sports, other extracurriculars, work, really making sure that they create a dedicated time slot where they're going to get that work done. So it can be really useful to know, okay, I know that at this time I am working on AP biology homework. Thinking critically about the content. Again, this is not going to be just a rapid fire, going quickly through things, memorizing things, but they really are going to have to be able to analyze content in a lot of classes and dive deeper into the content. So again, it goes much beyond a surface level exposure in the various classes. And working independently, again, there's a class time, but there's also going to be aspects where students are going to have to do stuff independently. Writing, just practice, studying for the AP exam itself, if they choose to take it, reading, and just, being able to work on it alone. So, and then this is a big one, being willing to ask questions of their teacher if you're confused. Okay, it's not a class where you want to put it off, oh, I'll figure it out. If you're confused about something, you really want to make sure you take care of it quickly because the class is going to move on. And not that you can't ask later, but the sooner they're willing to ask that question of a teacher, the easier it will go. And of course, we have tutorial. Some teachers are available before and after school. Email can be effective. Just making sure that they are. It really comes down to, are you staying on top of what you're supposed to be learning? Okay. All right. Now, as a parent, what you can do to help your student be successful in an AP course, help them stay organized. Okay. I know this is not a natural thing that comes to all teenagers. So, you've worked with them before, kind of figuring out how they can stay organized. Do they have a place at home they're keeping everything? Do they have whatever they need to stay on top of things? Managing time. So it's a lot of the same things. Helping them set up a schedule. For a lot of students, they might not have had that experience. And when we get to our student panel, we'll kind of hear if sort of the expectations in an AP class were how they were different than their general, their on-level courses. And so really making sure that they have schedule a time where they can work on it. Um, utilizing FlexiSketch. Okay, so making sure that they're meeting with their teachers, using tutorial. Okay, I will say one thing that is sometimes new is a lot of some students who've chosen to take AP classes, they might not have had to do a lot of work outside of class before. It was fairly straightforward. They will just do it, and all of a sudden they're having to figure out how to manage that outside of class work. Um, Talk to them about what they're doing in class. Sometimes some of the AP classes are, in fact, all of them are frequently doing some really neat stuff, and it's really worth kind of hearing about what they're learning. Um, so I definitely recommend, don't, and I know not all students are willing to share, but, see what you can get out of them. If they're having any difficulty in a class, again, just to remember, these classes are going to be challenging for many students. Okay, they're meant to be college level courses. So there will be challenge. There might be frustration at times, but just kind of really encourage them. Ask them, what have you done? Have they gotten help? Ask for help. Have they, just really work with them on that. And then encourage them to meet with teachers. Again, we always encourage, like, initial step is have the student reach out to the teacher. Okay. If it gets to that next level, definitely parents can reach out, but really encourage your student, if they're struggling, if they have questions, to connect with their teacher to try and resolve those. Okay. All right. Next up, in accommodations. If your student has an IEP or a 504, we actually have to submit a request to the College Board to allow them to have those accommodations on those exams. If they've done it before, they took an AP class last year, or they've taken the PSAT or the SAT, and they've done this already, they're set. Once we've done this in high school, they're set for the rest of high school, unless we have to make changes to those accommodations. So this is something that next fall, once we know who's in which AP class, we will proactively reach out to your student and you about getting these set up. This is something that, as the school helps you apply for, there's a process, and we help you apply. We're definitely going to try and do it in the fall as much as we can. And because it does sometimes take a few weeks for the College Board to approve them. But again, you will be hearing from us if your student is taking an AP class and has an IEP or 504 that would grant them accommodations for, like, extended time or smaller setting, or breaks as needed, things like that, that are in their current accommodations. Okay. So that's something that, if you have concerns about, if you have questions about, please feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me. I'm actually the one who manages those. So IEP is an individual education plan for students in special education, and a 504 is part of the Section 504 of the Individuals with Disability Act, and it's around accommodations for students to be able to access their education. All right. So again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you'd rather take care of this sooner, you can let me know. But again, we will, in the fall, have plenty of time. All right. Next up, the AP exam. So first off, while the vast majority of students take it, the AP exam is optional. Students can take an AP class and not take the exam. We definitely encourage them to take the exam, again, because of those opportunities to potentially earn college credit. And for even a 3, which is a great score, but sometimes students really do surprise themselves and earn that, and then it can get them out of that first semester of English, or they won't have to do a semester of physics or something, or math. They can accelerate in math or whatever it is. So the cost is approximately $100. This year it's $100. It could change. The College Board some years raises the price a couple dollars, some years doesn't. And we will, like, once students have registered for the test, we do help. It's actually a payment to the school, and then we pay for it. So that all happens in the fall. We actually have to pay for them. Even though the tests will be administered in May, So for next year, we're talking May of 2026. It's the date. So yeah, I'll just go through this and I'll answer that other thing. So the exam dates are set by the College Board and they're the same worldwide. So it's the first two full weeks of May. So this year, it starts Monday, May 5th, and it goes through the next 2 weeks. If students can't take a test, they're sick, they are having some sort of emergency where they're traveling, they have 2 tests scheduled for the same time. There is late testing the following week. So, that's something that we do look at also, or if something's coming up, you can just reach out to us and we can make that adjustment. But there are set dates with that makeup option as well the following week. But that's all very rushed. I think they do the makeups in about 3 days. So, and each exam is about 3 to 4 hours. It just depends on the exam. There are some that are shorter, some that are much longer. One transition that's really coming fast this year is increasing numbers of tests, or part of the tests are computer-based. Not all of them, but that is increasingly an option. So whereas last year, virtually all of our tests were done on paper, this year, most of them will be done on Chromebooks. So that's something that we'll be adjusting to. There's always a multiple choice part and a free response portion of the exam, which often includes essays, or in math or science, like bigger problems that students have to analyze and solve. Language ones, they'll have speaking portions and listening portions, and as well as writing and multiple choice portions. And that repeats what I said, that there's a fee associated with each exam. What I was going to say, we will have scholarships available. What I was going to say is we actually have to have students register for the exams by the end of October. So it's a very early registration. Students can register late, but there is an additional $40 late fee. So you will be hearing a lot about the registration starting sometime in September about, payments and whatnot. Okay. And yeah, so by November, so by the end of October, and we have that $40 late fee. Okay, so next steps. All right. If your student is planning on taking an AP class next year and they haven't taken one before, some of the things you can do is you can go to collegeboard.com and register as a parent or student. Students will be joining when they come into their classes at the start of the new school year. If they're in an AP class, their teachers will be having them join their class on the collegeboard.com website. So if they already have their account, that's great. If students are signing up, I definitely recommend they use a personal email, because that way they will continue to have access to their account even after they graduate from Branham. So that's definitely a recommendation. Students, if you've used your school email, I believe you can go in and update it. But that way you, again, continue to have access. You can click on AP Central, and it has course descriptions, so kind of what each class is about. When the exam is, currently it will have this year's exam date. And then they'll update sometime over the summer what next year's exam dates are. It's pretty consistent year to year, although they have made some changes this year. You can learn more about how students earn college credit and how it can help in the admissions process. Students did have the opportunity in January to attend some course-specific informational sort of lunch and learn opportunities. If they missed that, or if they have further questions, I definitely recommend they reach out to the AP teachers directly. And I do have, at the end of the slideshow, we do have a slide with sort of key teachers to reach out to. But they can also talk to their current teachers and ask them who they should talk to. All right, so we're going to go on to our student panel now. And we are lucky to have 3 students, Zoya, Samin, and Alex. And if you guys want to just spend a few minutes kind of talking about your experience so far. And why don't we start off with Alex?
So I'm currently a sophomore at Branham High School, and I'm only taking one AP this year. It's my first AP. I'm taking AP World History, taught by Miss McInnes. I really like history. I like learning about it and stuff. So that's why it's like okay for me like doing it because I enjoy what I'm learning about. If you enjoy what you're learning about, then you'll do better. I don't recommend taking AP if you don't like what you're doing, right? Um AP World, it's rigorous and you do have to plan and learn how to not procrastinate, and you have to kind of relearn some things, right? But if you ever need help about that, it's the teachers are available even to help you with like time management and things. There are resources in Branham and of your AP teachers that you can use to really help that. um, I've really struggled sometimes with time management, but I'm learning how to do that. And if I really need help, I know I can reach out to my teacher. Um, so yeah, AP World has been fun, really good, and it's more interactive than classes I've had in the past. It's more hands on. There are a few, lectures and things, and it's a lot of note taking, but there's a lot of like more learning like yourself about it too. Learning like through posters or through like presentations and things like that. You like can learn more in depth of things instead of just like learning about it and then like moving on, even though it is kind of rapid. Um, it's a lot of note taking, but yeah, it is a lot of note taking. But once you learn how to do it and once you do it enough, you can like kind of enjoy it a little bit, right? Because like once you can develop your like way of note taking that you remember it, and then you can use it to study on the AP exam, right? So other, than just learning how to not procrastinate and liking lectures and note taking, it is a really, really fun class, right? AP World is, I would recommend it to be one, like if you're going into sophomore year, AP World History is one of the best APs to start with. Yeah.
Thank you. Zoya?
Hi, I'm Zoya. I'm a senior, and so I've kind of tried a lot of APs. I've taken 11 total, and I've done two honors classes. So I'll do a couple highlights of a couple important ones. I think, like Alex mentioned, I think I took AP World History my sophomore year as well, and it was like one of the most impactful APs that I took because it drills a lot of important time management skills in you, and I think the class itself pushes you to think really complexly. Um, I took with Miss McInnes, and she really pushed us to always have complex arguments and consider all the different factors involved with events in the past. So I think that mindset really drilled into me. And then I took AP US History the next year, and I continued to have that mindset. And it's still something I think about now, and it's like translated to my other classes. So I took AP English language last year as well, and I always like had to push myself to consider a lot of my background knowledge and try to find a more complex argument. So I think you learn a lot of really great skills from AP classes that you can translate to other classes as well. Um, I would say that yeah, I took four APs my sophomore year, which is a lot, and I think that it's great. I think that I took four APs my sophomore year, four APs my junior year, and I've been taking three. And I think that like APs can be very challenging. I would say I think a lot of people are really excited by the idea of taking AP classes and they try to max it out. And I think one of the main things I've realized is that it doesn't matter as much. I think like Alex mentioned, it's really important to just take classes of things that you're interested in. So I took a lot of APs because I was actually genuinely interested in the subjects that I was learning. And taking AP classes like allowed me or challenged me to have a really in-depth understanding of what I was learning. So I also took AP Chem my sophomore year, and I was just kind of interested in chem, but I really enjoyed taking the class because I got so much of like a more holistic and fundamental understanding of the concept, and I was able to appreciate the topic a lot more because you understand so much and you know so much and you can connect so many subjects to it. So yeah, I would say that I would recommend if like for students starting out like their sophomore or junior year to be more incremental in how they challenge themselves. Um, APs are really challenging and they force you to think a lot more in depth and thoroughly about things, especially because you have to have a really in-depth understanding of the topics that are discussed about or that you learn about because you're under a time crunch and you have to take tests that are timed and overall have to be able to connect ideas really quickly. So I think getting into that mindset and it takes a lot of time to get used to that. And that's why I think it was a little bit easier for me because I don't know actually, but I pushed myself a lot my sophomore year and junior year, I think, to get really used to thinking complexly about things. And I think a lot of that is because I would do a lot of practice, and that's like my main tip for students is to just do a lot of practice and practice applying concepts in different scenarios. So for AB Chem, I would just like find worksheets online and then just practice on every single one of them until I understood the concepts that we were learning about really thoroughly. And yeah, I would say that the really great thing about AP, the thing I've enjoyed the most is that it forces me to understand things super thoroughly. And so I've been able to grow a lot from my AP classes, even outside of knowing the content knowledge. For example, now when I learn about current events in the news, I can connect it to what I learned in AP World and realize, oh, this probably these social economic factors are influencing what's going on today. And it's because I was forced to have that really thorough understanding of what was going on. And yeah, I would say the two like most impactful classes I've taken are AP Lang and AP World History because they've drilled a lot of that thinking into me and like really I think the teachers really push you to think very thoroughly about the content, which is really important. Um yeah, I would say that it's really important to take the classes that you're interested in because otherwise you're not going to have the motivation to really learn in depth and it's not going to have as much merit for you. And I would also say that I realized my senior year that I also took less APs my senior year because I kind of recognized that I would be busy with college apps and I didn't recognize how much time that would take up. So I was taking three APs and one honors, which is the data structures and algorithms class. But even then I had to cut down like on my extracurriculars a lot in order to budget time for that. So I think it's really important when your student is a senior to kind of consider whether you want to maybe have a lighter schedule your senior year to accommodate for college apps, or if you want to take a step back from some of your extracurriculars, because it really does take a lot more time than people expect, especially when you're trying to craft the best version of your essays or anything like that. And yeah, I think my one other overall thing about AP is that it really forces you to figure out the best study techniques for yourself. I think for me, what I've learned is to appeal to how my brain thinks. I'm really good at categorizing things and labeling things, so it's a technique that I really adopted and honed in, and it's really, I think it's a good space to find out what works for you, but that's why you should be kind of careful in how much you challenge yourself with the classes you take because you want to have room to experiment and you want to have the pressure, like kind of like the exigence to do something to develop better study techniques, but you don't want to swamp yourself so much that you fall behind as you're trying to experiment and grow.
Awesome. Thank you. And Samin?
Yep. Hello, I'm Suman Choi, and I am right now a high school junior, and I took three APs in my sophomore year and five APs in my junior year currently. And I just got to preface by saying that these AP classes aren't just difficult, they're like, it really requires immense time and effort. Because usually, when I was in my freshman year, students have a lot of time to explore everything, try out clubs, sports, and even participating in the school dances, which I really loved. But starting from sophomore year, when I took three APs, I had to cut down on some of these kind of after school events to kind of spend more time and more effort into sustaining the grade that you want for a class. Because AP classes are, I feel like, much more difficult and much more demanding than our normal classes. And additionally, I used to be an often procrastinator, and I would try and do everything at the last day, just before the deadline. But going into my sophomore year, I really got that habit broken because I would sometimes have to sleep at 3 a.m. just to finish all of the assignments, and that was really brutal on me. And so I started fixing up on some of my bad habits, and it really makes you prepared for these college level courses that you're going to be taking if you're going to college. And it gives a student a little bit of a wake-up call because some of the previous classes that students might have taken required like notes and a little bit of habits for classes, just knowing what the teacher wants you to fill out and kind of understanding it. But for AP classes, you have to spend a lot of time outside of class due to the fast-paced nature of these classes. Some of these classes will fit in a lot, like one unit into 1 month. And this really pushes the student to kind of be on top of everything and try and get everything done. And it pushes them to be kind of as best as possible and the best student that they can be. In 10th grade, I struggled. I'm not a big like humanities guy, even though I'm very interested in this history and all of this English, because I honestly like literature and I like learning about history. But I did struggle a lot on humanities. And in 10th grade, I had AP World History, as Alex and Zoya did. And I usually spent hours on during the weekends just to write how to do these in-class essays. And even though I spent a lot of time on it, I sometimes wouldn't get the best grade that I wanted. And so I'd spend more time and try and put more effort into it. And so these AP classes really like take a lot of time than expected. And now in 11th grade, I have Miss Arduini as AP Lane. And some of these homeworks that she gives, I heard that some of my friends do it in 30 minutes, but sometimes mine takes like 2 hours. And it's brutal sometimes. Like sometimes you don't get anything and you have to delete everything again and try and repeat it. And these AP classes will push you. And so it will be difficult for the students. And you kind of need to basically try your best, try and over again, and expect to fail from time to time. And so I really recommend students to take classes if they're passionate about it and that they really enjoy taking these classes. The course load makes everything much more entertaining and much more enjoyable though. But it does give you a deeper dive into a topic, and sometimes that deeper dive might be a little bit difficult. And so even if some students might take the class for the GPA bump, I would stress that being passionate and being enjoying what you're studying is a much better kind of opportunity for AP classes than just doing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, all of you. I really appreciate it. I think it's a lot of good insight. All right, so thank you, students. Next up, we have our teachers. We have Jennifer Brady, one of our AP Calculus teachers, the aforementioned Bobby Arduini, who teaches AP English Lang, Sarah McInnes, who teaches AP World History, Alex Johnson, who is teaching AP Chemistry, and Corey Reynolds, who teaches AP Environmental Science, and Stephen Turner, who is our Computer Science Honors Extraordinaire. So I would like to give each of them a couple minutes to talk, and maybe we can just go in the order that we have on the panel or on the slide. Starting with Miss Brady.
Good evening. We have 3 AP courses in the math department, AP Calculus AB, BC, and then AP Stats as well. For the calculus classes, particularly with AB, there are 8 units that need to be covered, which comes out to be about 2 sections a day of when we're in class. It is a lot of times students will take it as, oh, it's the next progression. But as students have said previously tonight, the AP level, you are leveling up. There is a much bigger jump in the expectation of the understanding of the math content in the calculus courses than there is if you just go from Math 1 to Math 2, Math 2 to Math 3, Math 3 to Math 4. There's a much bigger gap of it's a higher learning curve. So students do need to be organized. It's highly suggested that they practice and don't wait until the night before the test to study. That's not going to go well. But I think that's about the students did a pretty good job. But calculus is at least 2 sections a day. BC doesn't cover as much material, but it is expected that you know AB already. And AP Stats can be taken concurrently with calculus, or it can be taken first, or it could be taken second. And that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Arduini?
Great. Hi, I'm Bobby Arduini, and yeah, so I'm representing English. I teach AP English Language, and we also offer to seniors AP English Literature. I'd say it's one of the most popular AP classes. More students take AP English than on-level English, and that is not because they all want to be English majors. But I think that it is because it's the foundational skills of reading and writing are really helpful for students, no matter what subject matter they're going into. We also have a pretty good pass rate, and so one of the things that we work really hard to do is to make sure to scaffold students, so that way, if they wherever they're coming in to kind of work with where students are at in order for them to be as successful as possible. Like our wonderful student panelists and Ms. Brady said as well, writing is not something that you can just try really hard at the day of and like you're going to be a better writer. It does involve basically working on those skills outside of class, so that way you can develop your writing voice. What the test is preparing people for is to write for both AP English classes, to write 3 essays in 2 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes for AP Lang. And so they need to be complete essays. And there are 3 different types of essays. We go over all the curriculum. But for a lot of students, it's the first time that they're really working on timed essay writing. And they don't have any aids. There's no spell check, there's no grammar check or anything like that. And so I think it's a really good opportunity for students to work on their writing in its rawest form, so that way they can read and write at a college level in a way that is going to help them throughout all their years. I'm a big proponent of AP English classes. I would say that I think it's a great class for students to take as long as they have a strong work ethic and they're interested in the subject. I will say that I just received an email from a student who graduated 5 years ago, and he is an engineer now, and he, thanked me for being so hard on his essays, and he said that every English class after mine, he got an A. And he worked really hard, but it was one of the things where even though a lot of students aren't, like I said, going to be humanities majors these days, being able to communicate clearly, to write the emails that they need to write, to synthesize the information, these are all relevant skills that probably help them in a lot of areas outside of AP English. And so, so if you have any questions, my email is on the next slide, and so is Ms. Black, who teaches AP Lit, and we are happy to talk to you or to talk to your students about the course.
And Ms. McInnes.
Hi, my name is Sarah McInnes, and I teach the AP World History course in 10th grade. I'm also department chair, so I'm representing our other offerings as well, which includes AP US History, AP Government, and as well as AP Psychology. And while the content in these courses differs pretty greatly, depending on the course, what they all kind of have in common is the fact that they're truly fast-paced courses. You heard from some of the student panelists earlier just how writing intensive as well as how many notes are required. There's a lot of content to get through, a lot of years of history to get through in all of these courses. So it is these courses do require a lot of reading outside of the class. And again, depending on reading comprehension, reading speed, that can really determine how many hours you're working outside of the classroom. Some students are proficient readers. They are really good at taking notes. They get it immediately and they can be done in a much shorter amount of time. Whereas some students, right, they're really learning those skills of reading comprehension and how to take good notes, and it might take them a lot longer. These exams and courses for AP social sciences, they're writing intensive too. Usually the AP exam is at least over half writing. So we are writing 5-paragraph essays in a timed manner as well. So again, if you are, as Bobby Arduini mentioned, if you are struggling with the writing skill, right, that can be a challenging aspect of these courses. While we do, right, have scaffolds to teach and learn, it's not necessarily a skill that is there on day one necessarily for students. So that is usually an area of our courses that students find to be challenging somewhat. And I do like to just, again, stress what some of these students have stressed, that a passion for the subject can be really helpful in making you more successful. This is a college level curriculum. We do go very fast paced. I go through, in some cases, a unit in a week. And so being able to be prepared for that kind of jump in comprehension and skill level is a really important consideration, especially in the 10th grade. I have students, right, who the last time they took a history class was 8th grade, and all of a sudden they're coming into my class and doing college level work, where the last class they took in social science was 8th grade. So I think that's a really important consideration as well. Again, my email will be on the next slide if you have questions, and don't hesitate to reach out.
Mr. Johnson?
Hey everyone, my name is Alex Johnson. I teach AP Chem at Brandom. So in terms of sciences, we offer a few different types of sciences. We have AP Chem, AP Physics 1 and 2, AP Environmental Science, and AP Biology. And I think that I'd like to give a recommendation of how I think students could be the most successful, especially in science classes, because we go in so much detail and at such a fast pace compared to the on-level classes. Taking advantage of tutorials, I think, is huge for any student, but especially at the AP level, and not hesitating to ask their teachers if they need help, or if they want more help, or if they don't understand something, or even if they do understand something, attending that tutorial with other students in the class and maybe explaining it to them, to other students that may not quite grasp it, can really help those students develop their understanding and kind of dive deeper into the subject. So that's my big recommendation for taking on an AP class. And then Ms. Reynolds, you probably have a little bit more to add too.
Awesome. Thank you. And Ms. Reynolds?
Hi, I'm Ms. Reynolds. I teach AP Environmental Science. Just to speak a little bit about what kind of the differences are in the sciences, because you do have many AP Science classes to choose from if you're trying to pick between them. AP Physics is unique in a sense that you can take AP Physics 1 instead of the on-level physics. There's not a prerequisite for the AP Physics, whereas with the rest of them, AP Chemistry, AP Bio, and AP Environmental Science, those are second-year science courses. So you do need to take those initial core classes your freshman, sophomore, and junior year. I get a lot of questions that ask what's the difference between AP Environmental and AP Bio. And the biggest difference between that is AP Environmental is big picture systems and how large systems work together. There's a lot of reading, comprehension, explanations, cause and effect, whereas AP Bio is getting smaller, looking at the details in how things function at a smaller and more micro level. One requires, as far as skill sets, depending on which science you're interested in, it does require different skill sets to be successful in the different courses. So in AP Physics and AP Chemistry, having a strong math background is really beneficial to those courses and will help you it goes a long way to being very successful in those courses. AP Biology, having a good strong memorization skill is very helpful in that one. There's a ton of terminology that you need to cover in AP Bio. And then in AP Environmental Science, it is more of your reading comprehension, cause and effects, being able to explain, and then smashing the worlds of social science and life science together and how they interact. So I repeat what's been said many times. Go with the one that you're most passionate about. Go with the one that you're willing to spend hours focusing on and working on, because it does take a lot of time outside of class with how rapidly the classes move. But there's also a lot of supports in the science courses. We have amazing teachers teaching these classes that are happy to sit down and work with students who feel like they're just not quite getting it. So use those tools, use your tutorials, and you can be successful in any of these courses as long as you're willing to put in the time, effort, and ask the questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Mr. Turner.
Hello. Hi. I'm Mr. Turner. I'm the computer science teacher at Branham. We have kind of a combo of AP and honors mixed together in my discipline. So we have AP Computer Science A is now been transformed to an honors course for various reasons, and now also aligns with West Valley. And then we also have the same, and then we have two more levels with honors, and some of them also including West Valley credit. And just to reiterate, these courses do offer a GPA bonus. In terms of mine's a technical subject. So if you're doing well in any of your other AP classes, you'll be fine in mine. Mine is kind of my entry level one is a programming language. So a lot of people think it has a lot of math, when really it's like learning a computer foreign language. And so if you know language, it actually helps you a lot, because you're mostly just fighting syntax and a emotionless machine. I highly recommend, since a lot of these other subjects in college now require knowing some programming or data science, and it's a very large field, that you try it out. You don't necessarily have to have any background, so reach out to me if you're unsure. I have a lot of students ask if they want to take something over the summer, but everything's taught from scratch. But anything to make your students feel more comfortable or more prepared, I'm happy to help them out. And I treat it like a college course. So, and a lot of these are reversed. So they do the reading first, and then they come in and practice. So it's a flipped classroom, which is, also something that you'll see in college in some courses.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for that. All right. So, and again, as mentioned, we have, and this slideshow will be shared as well as the recording. But we have various teachers you can reach out to if you have questions about a specific class. These are generally the teachers who are teaching the class this year. Unfortunately, none of our world language teachers were able to make it. Again, one thing new, there is no AP Korean course. It doesn't exist. But we are excited to be offering, this is our 4th year of offering Korean. So we are reaching that capstone course, and being able to offer Korean for honors is very exciting. So they can still have that opportunity to take that accelerated sort of capstone course. But you can kind of see some different options. We also weren't able to have a visual arts teacher here, but we do have 3 different visual arts classes. Again, these are usually culmination of multiple years, but it really depends on the student. Some students are able to jump in after a year or 2 if they're really passionate and that's something they spend time in. So it never hurts to reach out to those teachers with questions. And so this here does sort of summarize what we currently offer at Branham. I know there's others out there, and one of the things is to be able to offer this many is actually pretty exceptional. And the concern always is if we offer more, we risk losing some of these. Some of these only have one section, some of them have many sections. So, we are pretty comfortable with this. If you do have questions about other APs, you can always reach out to me, and always happy to talk. So, but if you are interested in more information about a particular course, I would encourage you to reach out to these teachers, or if you have general questions, you can reach out to me. With that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions, or if any of our panelists. We also have Miss Liu, our college and career specialist here, Miss Bloom, one of our counselors, Mr. Harrison, another assistant principal. There was one question that's ended up in the chat. I guess it wasn't as close as I thought it was for a while, about students with 2 tests on the same day. And I would like to answer that for the group. As I mentioned, the AP schedule is very regimented by the College Board, and each day on the 2 weeks of Monday through Friday, there are morning exams and afternoon exams. And the morning exams are supposed to start between 8 and 9 local time. Ideally as close to 8 as possible, and the afternoon exams between noon and 1. So ideally we get them started quickly. So if, in the rare occasions, it does happen that students have an afternoon exam after a morning exam. They do get a little break. Sometimes, for whatever reason, morning tests get off to a slower start, a bigger group maybe, so it takes longer to go through the instructions, hand stuff out. If a student is running into a situation where their morning test is running long, and they're not going to make the start of their afternoon test, that's a place where we can adjust and move to like a late test. Ideally, we want to have them take them in the normal time. That's what is preferred. But if it does come up, we can do that. There's a lot of overnight shipping when it comes to late testing, so late orders and whatnot. So, and also we do keep track of like the fact, students who do have 2 tests in the same day, so we are aware of it going in if there is potentially any risk. So if you do have any concerns about that, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we can kind of look at like what the estimated time for each test is and sort of make a plan. But our goal is always that they get some sort of break in there. But I know that it can be a stressful, very long day sometimes. Students with accommodations who have extended time on a morning test we would automatically assume that they're going to do the late test. So I hope that answers that question. But if it doesn't, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd like to close. If there are any other questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the Q&A. It looks like we've had several questions answered. And again, if you have an individual question, please don't hesitate to reach out to really any one of us. So I'll give it just maybe a minute if people have any questions they want to ask, and then we will wrap it up for the evening. All right. Well, with that, again, if you do have a follow-up question, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll go back. You can see my email here. If I go back, you can send it to me, and if I can't answer it, I will find someone who can. So with that, I'd like to wish you all a good night. Thank you, all of our panelists and everyone else who joined us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.